Hello, I am Bentham and welcome back to Factorio Railworld. In the previous episode we built the Megatrain, and today we're going to be doing a lot of loading with that, but the first thing I do is notice that the plastic situation is not great. It's coming along in fits and starts and it's not enough to keep things supplied, which is a bit annoying. But I decided not to hop on the train right now. I'll do it a little bit later and we'll see if we can get that fixed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to craft a ton of requester chests to help with the loading of the train, because we want to set up it's similar to the resupply train in its basic structure, in that it gets resupplied when it's in the station, and then there's less work on my part basically in the long term. And I'm just checking up on the modules, seeing what the progress is towards the rocket defense. And we are approaching the 5th one. We're expecting that this episode, and we've just got like one more level 3 speed module and 20 or so more level 3 productivity modules, and then we're done and it goes. So I'm on my way to the Megatrain, check up on the circuits. It's not looking brilliant, but there's, it's not run down yet. The supply is still pretty good, so we'll see how things develop with that. But here we are at the train with its 10 cargo wagons and its 2 trains on the end. People were saying that 2 trains on the front wouldn't be enough, but you're forgetting that the point of this train is not to go fast. It's to be a moving factory basically, and just bring all the supplies I could possibly need. I'm going to be building the track as I go, so it's never going to be able to get up to a decent amount of speed because of all the trees and crap that will be in the way. But anyway, we're sorting out the loading of the first cargo wagon. This is going to have some straight rails, like 25 stacks of those, and 5 stacks of curved rails. No matter how, no idea how long that will last us for. We'll just have to see. We'll possibly have to come back and resupply at some point. But anyway, we'll work on the next cargo wagon, and this one is going to be full of ammo. So we've got 10 stacks of shotgun ammo, and also remembering to put in the filters there to make sure that the sections of the cargo wagons are probably designated for purposes of resupplying and things like that. So we've got 10 stacks of shotgun ammo, 10 stacks of machine gun ammo, and then we're going to go back to the main base and grab a few more things. You can see all the bots flying about like crazy. There were a few of them that were actually out of power and were really slowly making their way towards roboports. I don't know whether it was because there was no room to recharge or something, because there's only a few roboports going down there, so it is a bit difficult to recharge if everyone runs out of power at once. But anyway, I've grabbed some tank shells, and I'm going to go over to the other end of the production line. I'm going to grab a couple of rockets of both kinds, because both kinds have their own advantages to them. I don't know if I'm ever going to use them. I just thought I'd bring them along just to have a bit of everything, really. So I've got every option available to me. And I'm also going to grab a couple of capsules and things like that while I'm here, and then I'll make my way back to the train. You can see at this point some pretty bad lag kicks in, and basically what happened was my computer decided to do an update or perform some sort of routine maintenance or something while I was trying to record and play Factorio, and it didn't go down well. So for the next few seconds things are a little bit rubbish before I give up and pause to let it all blow over. But anyway, we're back over to the train for now. We're going to finish off putting in the stuff into the ammo carriage. So we're going to have 2 stacks of the normal rockets, 3 stacks of the explosives, and 5 stacks of the cannon shells. And we start putting in the requested chest. You can see the lag's just getting worse and worse, and so I decide to just cut it there, and we come back after that's all calmed itself down, and I can actually do things again. So we sort out the requested chest, and the way I'm working it out right now is I'm setting it so that if the train ever arrives, there's enough in the requested chests that are just there to resupply it without the need for logistics bots. So for example, with the rails, I've got 4 chests. It should actually be 5. I've got this slightly wrong. 4 straight rails, and then 1 chest for curved rails, and then they've each got 500 in them, so that it adds up to pretty much the entire contents of that cargo wagon already. And I've done the same with the ammo stuff. So there's like 500, 2 chests of 500 shotgun shells, and so on and so forth. And I'm not actually sure if there's enough shotgun shells, because I remember in the first trip around the lake, I think I had something like 5 stacks, and I used it all up, and it came to some major issues. Meanwhile, I think I may have a few too many in the way of capsules. I've got 15 stacks of destroyer drones, And if that's not enough, I don't know what is. That will definitely be the last thing to run out, because when I went round the lake before, I only had like 2.5 stacks of destroyer capsules, and they lasted me to the very end. The supplies did get a little bit short to like in the last mad dash for home. But anyway, the bots are continuing to try and keep up with my demands. Of course, the destroyer robot production is going to go absolutely mental now, because it doesn't produce them that quickly, and with me wanting 1,500 of them, it's going to be broken for a long time. The train is probably not going to be filled with it, which I guess isn't an issue, considering how many that is. But anyway, we're back over to the main base, and I'm actually going to add in some new production for the first time in a long time. We're going to be making some vehicles, because another thing I want to do about the train is have it so that it's the entire loading process can be automatic. Because it's possible that while I'm out in the wilderness, I want to send the train back of its own accord to resupply while I carry on doing some work. In which case it would be no good if it got there and there was none of the particular thing I was looking for. For example, I needed some more tanks because I've run out of them because they'd all blown up. I wouldn't be able to, well, I guess I could set up an assembler to make them, but that's not the best way of doing things. In fact, I think you can craft them, so maybe I didn't really need to set this up, but whatever, we've done it. So we're making tanks, cars, trains and cargo wagons, and for those we're going to need 6 different items. So we're just getting belts, bringing all these things along here. So we got a belt with steel and gears, we got one with advanced circuits on one side, and then what we're going to do is we're going to set up a requester chest to put engines onto the other side. And then the final 2 things we need are circuits and iron, so I'm just working out how to arrange this in a nice and neat fashion, so there's not like awkward like belts trying to go around each other or whatever. It ends up looking a little bit odd because you have to have this underground belt thing here, even though there's an underground belt leading into it, but you can't move that up, so nothing you can do. So I have the tank assembler in place, but the inserters aren't there yet, and I decide momentarily to hop over and put in some more bots. And the reason for this is that no engines were arriving, so I got a bit annoyed with the logistics bots at being too busy dealing with all sorts of different things to be able to deliver the engines. So then I put in the all the inserters to supply the tank production and so on, and I start having a look at the different requirements for trains and cargo wagons and so on. And I start putting in the cargo wagon assembler. This one doesn't use engines at all, so we can just stick this sort of a bit further along, and we can put it on the other side because it doesn't matter. But then it turns out that I've really messed things up with trains and cars, because as it turns out, the way it works is each of those requires one thing from each of the 3 belts, which, you know, if I'd known that, I would not have arranged them in the way I did. But it does mean I get to make this fairly nice looking inserter setup that you see here, where we have sort of long-armed inserters at 2 different levels, and the fast inserters as well, so we can take off all 3 different belts with 1 inserter each. I mean, it doesn't balance out perfectly, but it's the best we can do with what we've ended up with, to our own faults, and not paying attention to what needed to be where. So now I'm putting in I put the provide chest in, I'm putting the limits in, and I'm trying to work out what the stack sizes of the different things are, because I don't actually know. And there's still no engines come through, so I go over and find out what the deal is, and it turns out I never put a provider chest on the engines, so they couldn't be delivered. Now that that's done, that should start happening, so we'll hopefully see that soon enough. And I noticed that plastic has got even worse. It's now emptied out on the advanced circuit line, and I decide that I need to go and fix this. So you can see that it's like it comes in big chunks, and then there's just these huge empty patches between train visits, and it's no good because there's just not enough coming through. And when I get to the train, I find out that only 5 of the 10 slots of potential space for plastic has actually got anything in it, which is not enough, because like we expanded quite a while ago the capacity to 10 because 5 wasn't enough, and now we can't get to 5. Partially it's to do with the chemical plants, I think, because one of the plastic ones isn't going at full speed, but it's quite clear that that won't be enough anyway, because of like it's only one of them that's not running at full speed, and the amount of plastic that we need to get up to speed again is quite immense. So what I'm going to do is, for the first time in a very long time, build a new refinery to help with just the production of everything, and of course we'll be able to make a lot more of all three fractions, and then get a bunch of more cracking stuff to get a bunch more production going of petroleum gas, because we've tried adding in more cracking plants already and it's not been enough, and light oil is going to start running down soon if all we do is keep adding in cracking plants. So now that we've got one more refinery, I decided it's finally time to build a second chemical plant for the cracking of heavy oil, because up until now heavy oil has been sort of very stable, and I've been unable to reduce it with the one cracking plant that I have, because it's been running for a very long time, and heavy oil is still almost entirely full. So we get this all set up, we get the pipes in place. We've had to move some oil pipes a little bit that I put in I think just last episode, and I knew they were going to be an issue, so that it wasn't too much of a problem to move them in the end. And then we're going to add in 3 new cracking plants for cracking light oil into petroleum gas. I guess one for the light oil that's being cracked from heavy, one for the new light oil that's arriving anyway from the refinery, and then one just for the fun of it, and it gives us a little bit more leeway in things with how much light oil we can use up and how much petroleum gas we can produce. And hopefully this should be enough to produce all the petroleum gas we need. I don't even know how many cracking plants we have now, but it extends the length of the oil storage area and well beyond at this point, so it's getting very crazy. And if this isn't enough, we're going to have to probably add in even more refineries to keep up with the with just the general oil needs, and we'll definitely need to add in some more pump jacks sooner rather than later, because we added in a bunch recently, but they're only going to last so long. But anyway, it's time to add in some new plastic production, because at the moment all of those chemical plants are going at full speed and it's clearly still not enough. So I come up with a new design. This one's a little bit of a different arrangement, because all the inserters are on one end of it, rather than there being pipes and like loading on one end and then unloading on the other. And the way it works out is we can do it, we just have to arrange things a little bit weirder. There's some underground belts and blue belts involved to just get it all working right. And once we have the basic structure up, and I know what I'm doing, I can deconstruct the old plastic production and add it on to get the number up to 5 chemical plants. Don't know if that's enough or not. We'll find out when the time comes, and we'll just see how the advanced circuit production and so on goes. I mean, this is nearly doubling it. It's definitely doubling it if you take into account that one of the chemical plants wasn't running at full speed before. But of course, there's still the question of whether there is enough petroleum gas being produced for all of those plastic assemblers chemical plants to be running at once. And that's actually not something I check. I mean, partially it's hard to say because while this was all shut down, the petroleum gas built up. So it's the sort of thing we're going to have to come back later and see what the situation is, see if there's still enough petroleum gas around, or whether we actually need to add in even more refineries and so on. But anyway, we've got the coal connected up. I've also got power. We don't have inserters on all of them yet, but while things start to get going, I deconstructed the old infrastructure for the plastic. There's just a couple of pipes and belts around that are no longer needed, and a couple of power poles as well. It turns out some of them are more important than others. One of them actually shut down the sulfur when I got rid of it, so I put that back in, and then we'll go and finish off putting in the final inserters and the final power supply for the plastic, and now we just need to get it connected back up to the loading system. Now, of course, while this has all been going on, there's been no plastic being loaded onto the train, so everything will have completely shut down in terms of advanced circuits back at the base, which is annoying because it makes it more difficult to measure the effect that we've had on the advanced circuit production. We're going to have to leave it a little while so that we can get an equilibrium again and find out whether there's enough plastic or not. But it definitely looks like a big improvement here. All the inserts are running at full speed, though things are running down. That's not necessarily a bad thing, because if they're still producing fast enough for the system, we don't need to worry about that. So anyway, the train is now being loaded 75% in terms of plastic, which is a lot better than before. So hopefully that will be enough for a change, and we'll just sort of leave that to run for a while, see how it goes. It definitely looks better in terms of the unloading chests already, with them having more than a stack full. Well, let's go back to working on the production line. We're sorting out the vehicle stuff here, and unfortunately barely any of them have actually been made. There's a couple of tanks, a couple of cars, but there are no trains, and the reason is engines. And when I go over and look at engines, I find that they're all missing, and the reason is that they all went into electronic engines, or electric engines, whatever the term is, because I released another 50 bots into the air a short time ago, and that used up all the electric engines, making new robot frames, so that's annoying. But anyway, we found out that the stack size of cars and tanks is 1, as I suspected, but we're still not sure about trains, and I wonder if the stack size is actually 5 for trains. I seem to remember having more than 1 at some point in a stack anyway, so that suggests that. But I have found out that the stack size of cargo wagons is 5 at least, which is also a clue that the trains is 5. And what I'm trying to do is get it so that we actually get producing some trains, just so I can check this. And I also sort of want 1 because it makes setting up the filters easier. You can just click the middle mouse button and it sets the filter of a cargo wagon to whatever is in that square. If you don't have the item itself, you have to middle click and then you have to find the thing in the menu. I mean, it doesn't take much longer, but it's more satisfying if you have a cargo wagon full of stuff and then you just have to middle click every square instead of having to go into the menus each time. But anyway, I've given up on trying to get a train. I've got a tank and a car, so we can do that, and the cargo wagons as well. So this is going to be the 4th cargo wagon I think we're on now, and something like that. Yeah, I think that's the 4th. So putting in all of the requested chests and stuff, as well as the vehicles, we're going to have turrets as well. I also realise I haven't put in the filters for the capsule wagon there. But there we go, putting in the stuff. We have to sort of hop the tank and the car along to put the filters in for everything. And then what we're also going to have is 5 stacks of laser turrets and 5 stacks of normal turrets in the bottom. In my head, they fall into a similar category anyway. So then we just have to sort out the chests, each one being filled with enough to fill 5 squares. So again, we can have the loading thing happening quite rapidly. Though there will still be issues with things like rails, where there's 100 in a stack, and it does take a while for the inserts to transfer them over anyway. And some other things with large stack sizes are the plates. We're going to have a cargo wagon here, which is just full of raw materials, because of course we can't ignore those. I always carry around stacks of that stuff on me for important times when I need to build something. So we get all that set up. We've got 10 stacks for each kind of plate. I just sort of arbitrarily, well, I didn't arbitrarily pick it, it looked the nicest, so that's the one I went for. I don't know whether it's a good ratio or not, because we often need more iron than copper, though that's if you don't take into account circuits. But of course we're going to have some circuits loaded onto the train as well, so who knows what will happen. There may yet be a bit of rearranging as I work out how much of what I need. But anyway, we're now working on, I think, the 6th cargo wagon. We're really burning through these, and I'm quite surprised how quickly we're doing it, because I thought we wouldn't be able to fill them all, but I'm actually worrying now that we won't have enough. But anyway, I remember that we need to put in some coal into the train itself, and unfortunately the logistics range doesn't reach quite far enough, and I don't feel like it's worth it to put in a new roboport just for this, so I just get a requested chest that requests coal and then has it delivered a couple of meters to the trains themselves. But then something interesting happens. You may notice that there's red things and the power's gone horribly wrong, and what has actually happened is we've had a power failure for the first time in a very, very long time. We've actually not got enough power to keep things running. The solar panels were maxed out during the day and the accumulators ran out in the middle of the night. So we're actually going to have to do some work on that. It seems that we've got so much going on with all these roboports with their very high power consumption and all the general production that's going into loading the Megatrain. It's too much now. Of course, a very large portion of that will be the roboports, because they use a lot of power and you can't put efficiency modules in them or anything. But anyway, I've just sorted out this next cargo wagon along, so that's got 5 sacks of stone, 5 stacks of stone bricks, 10 of coal for loading the train and so on. I don't know how much food we're going to be using up on our journey. And then also, just for the fun of it, 5 of wood, and then I also set aside 5 slots for alien artifacts, and my reasoning for this is that I'm going to be gathering many hundreds of alien artifacts on this journey, and I'm going to need somewhere to put them, so I'm going to put them in that cargo wagon. But anyway, we've run out of time for today, so as I make my way back alongside all these bots, we'll try and finish loading the train next episode, and so I shall say goodbye. Thank you for watching, and I shall see you next time.